this is not the 1980s OSU.
Remember, always have faith in God, but have faith in yourself, and certainly have faith in the Cowboys.
We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. Colby, I woke up with a sore throat today, so my voice may not sound great, but we're back at it. We've got a lot to discuss. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. That music gets me fired up. I love that music. It's just
Doesn't it?
My whole life at Lewis Field, Boone Pickett Stadium, like I just feel that music in my bones. But yeah, sore throats are the worst. You are a stronger man than I if you're doing a podcast on a day that you woke up with a sore throat. Tell me it's gotten better throughout the day, because I'm really quite the baby whenever I get a sore throat.
It's gotten better. You know, I did all the little tricks with, salt water and all those things, but really energy level suffering more than the throat right now. But we're back at it. There are no excuses. You got to play like a champion. I think they debuted that music, the Ready for War intro music that you were referencing. I think they started that in 2011. All great things just magically came to be in that universe in 2011. Because I remember when they started playing, I was like, this, as the kids would say, slaps. This gets me juiced. This gets me hyped. I remember when I was a student, it was the We Ready thing they'd play right before kickoff. They might still do. It's been a while since I've been to a game, but the Ready for War needs to just stay for good. That just needs to be it. It needs to be like Virginia Tech playing Enter Sandman. It just does.
Well, you did go to a game this last year, but we got there like at kickoff. Like foot hitting leather is whenever we got there for the UT Martin game, so we didn't get to see the pregame festivities. I didn't make it to too many games this past year. I'm going to make it to some next year. You better believe I'm going to try to make it to all of them next year. Inevitably, I'll have like one, maybe I think just one weekend, hopefully, where I'll have a golf tournament on for a home game. But other than that, I might be there for every game because Carson, I mean, green, everywhere. Money, North Texas, mean green, nice green. It's everywhere I look, there's green.
Are we North Texas North? Like, should we be green and orange next year?
North Texas. That's what we are. We're North Texas.
We're North Texas. Yeah, tons of transfer portal news to get to. Also a just critical, gotta-have-it win for Oklahoma State basketball for Steve Lutz and company. Kanye Clary balling out. We'll get to all of that and more. But first, let's hear from Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop Cowboy shop. Be sure to shop at chrisuniversityspirit.com. I've been seeing Eric Morris rocking all the latest and greatest Oklahoma State apparel, rocking a awesome like bomber jacket. He wore this slick Nike sweatshirt at another appearance. So you're going to want the latest, greatest OSU gear because, yes, I will be attending more OSU football games. I can guarantee it next year. I'm sure many of you are the same. There's so much to be excited about. Chris is excited to be along there with you, so be sure to stop by Chris's if you're in town or shop online at Chris University Spirit. I guess we should start with hoops, Colby. That just happened last night. Huge win. We knew going into the Central Florida game that this was a critical game given what had happened prior and the fact that UCF's ranked, had only had one loss on the season. Kind of a comedy of errors down the stretch, a little chaotic finish, but let's just start with this. They're unbeaten at Gallagher-Iba. Critical win to kind of right the ship as Big 12 play is now in full swing.
Yeah, I said it on Sunday, Carson. They had to go get this one. They could not drop this one with what essentially amounts to a scheduled loss Saturday in Ames. I would love to be optimistic. Dude, Iowa State is so good. I mean, I've watched them a little bit. They are so good. There's NBA talent on that roster. You never know. You can get hot. You can win a game. But I'm going to have a hard time seeing Oklahoma State come away with that one, which really made me want the one last night. Every time UCF would make a run, the start obviously wasn't great, but then you go on a run, and Oklahoma State kind of led most of the game. It would get out to 9, they'd close it to 1. It would get out to 9, they'd close it to 1. Hit a couple of threes, 9-3, boom, back-to-back threes. They're late in the second half to cut it to 3. Oklahoma State kept finding an answer, and Kanye Clary kept finding an answer. Like, we can talk about what a disaster, what a Little League game it turned into the last few minutes, but Kanye Clary and his speed Carson, I mean, there was a play where he comes off a screen at the top of the key and he goes in with the left, and he goes up with his left all in one motion, never puts the ball back to his right hand, and just, I mean, his first step is quick. His burst down the lane is incredibly fast. I'm glad his knee injury wasn't serious because, man, it was fun watching him like really have himself a night last night.
Layla's got a quick first step too, joining the show.
Yes, mid-sentence right there. Oh, she was bringing me some dollar bucks, it looks like, as they would say on Bluey.
Oh,
we got
dollar bills?
we got this Monopoly Junior game that we got for Christmas, and she loves it. And she loves playing with the dollar bills. Are these for me, or are you keeping them? For me? Okay, thank you so much.
I mean, she's just practicing to be, an Oklahoma State donor. That's what the donors are doing right now, just passing out Monopoly money around for quarterbacks and receivers and such.
NIL right here. NIL.
Yeah.
I'm donating. Chad, if you're watching, this is yours. This is yours if you want it.
That's for our video podcast consumers. If you're listening on audio, Layla, Colby's daughter, brought him some little Monopoly money. It was pretty funny. So, no, I mean, you're right to start with Kanye Clary, which, first off, just the fact he's named Kanye, was my favorite artist when I was in college. Love that. We have such a musical team with Silk the Shocker's kid, Victorious Miller, a.k.a. Master P's nephew, on the team, and you got a kid named Kanye balling out. And I like you, when we talked about Kanye going down a few weeks ago with that knee injury, like, I kind of thought he might be done for the year, and lo and behold, he's back and really led the way. 18 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. That's a full box score, and he had 15 in the second half alone. And I think that's something we've seen at times this year, where certain guys have kind of assumed the role as the alpha. Victorious Miller certainly had that great stretch. Roy is capable of that, has done it at times, but really the strength of the team, I feel like, is the backcourt. And Kanye Clary really put a stamp on things and really put the rest of the Big 12 on notice that this is not just the Roy, the Miller, or maybe even the Parsifala show. Like, Kanye Clary is a guy you have to account for.
Yeah, I agree to an extent that it's a backcourt team, because you do have those three guards with Miller, Clary, and Roy. If you want to count Miller or Roy as a wing, that's fine. But I don't know, man. Parsifala in the front court, he is so good, and his presence makes such a difference. I still would love to go back in time and see what they would have looked like against Oklahoma if he had been out there for his normal allotment of minutes. Last night he plays 33 minutes, and that's in a game where he still wasn't 100% physically right. I had a mole at the game. What's up, Mom? She said that he was getting worked on behind the bench a couple of different times throughout the game during timeouts. He was getting some treatment on that lower back, which he's been dealing with. But if this is what a Parsifala who's dealing with a lower back problem looks like, I can't even imagine what he looks like if he's dealing with nothing. Because, 24 points last night, only 4 rebounds, but Oklahoma State did well after being out-rebounded handsomely by Texas Tech. They out-rebounded UCF last night. And, Carson, if we're going to rip the defense Saturday against Texas Tech, which was warranted, and Coach Lutz did not mince words either whenever discussing his team's defense, then we've got to give them some credit for how they defended last night, because they made life difficult for UCF. There was only one time I can think of Saturday there were about 15 times I wanted to throw something at my TV. Last night there was only one. There was an inbounds play with like 7 minutes to go in the game, and Oklahoma State just didn't defend the inbounds play, and it led to a wide open corner three, which a young man for UCF made. But aside from that, I was really pleased with what Oklahoma State was doing defensively, closing out on shooters, rotating. The energy in the home building in a game you felt like you had to have. The energy was definitely ratcheted up from Oklahoma State defensively. Yeah,
and I think that really, truly is the story of the game. As great as Kanye Clary was, we all knew the issues with this team really dating back to preseason. Steve Lutz really had harped on the defense, had brought that up multiple times prior to the year. Clearly, they've struggled on that end in their losses. And really, the previous 3 games, Cal State Fullerton shot 51%. Bethune-Cookman shot 46%. Tech shot 48%. But they held UCF, who typically has shot 49% on the year, to just 38% shooting and 21% from 3. So that really was a challenge from Steve Lutz. You could hear it in the post-game comments after they lost to Tech that, we have to figure out on defense or we're not going to beat anybody. He's like, we can score 80 points. That should be enough to win. And so it's great to see immediate improvement on that end, because that's going to be a consistent worry and a consistent kind of Achilles heel for this team that they now have shown that against a quality opponent that they can really do much better on that end. So that really was great to see.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously different. Road, home, Tech, tough place to play, really good team. You're at home, friendly confines of Gallagher-Iba where they're undefeated, so they're giving the home crowd a good show. I thought it was interesting, though. I brought up this weekend, is Oklahoma State just a bunch of guys that can dribble and shoot, or are these guys who can make winning basketball plays? And Steve Lutz has kind of alluded to some of those things in his comments. He says, I believe in their character, I believe in their ability, and I believe in their will to win. Unfortunately, that's not always been the top of our list, and it's bit us in the butt when we weren't. He talked about having a good practice. But Carson, a couple of weeks ago, he alluded to the fact that we need to make sure everybody on this team is committed to making the right play and making the winning play and not worried about getting their own. He said something about guys coming back to the bench. They see somebody else balling and they're like, okay, I got to go get mine. So he's alluded a couple of times now in his comments, I think, to him having a little bit of an underlying challenge, maybe behind closed doors, to just get it together and get everybody to see the big picture. And hopefully we'll start to see some more of that going forward, because it really starts with being able to keep teams from getting into a rhythm like what you saw with Texas Tech. And if Oklahoma State can do that, then they can score enough points to win 9-10 games in this league. But you've got to be able to get stops to do that.
Yeah, and the difference, I think, in past seasons under Mike Boynton is he didn't have the depth to really hold those people accountable, hold those players accountable. Steve Lutz got plenty of dudes to throw out there. If you're not playing defense, he'll come sit you. I think that's a huge benefit, is that he's got a lot of options. If a guy's not willing to do what it takes on defense, he'll sub you out. So that having that depth, I think, will help, with those challenges that he's clearly laid down to his team. And you mentioned the ugly finish, and the part that made me want to throw my remote at the TV was your boy Parsifala on a breakaway. And look, I know the big fella is not used to leading a break and trying to take 2.5, 3 steps from the free throw line and dunk it. But the missed dunk was kind of the cherry on top, because the final 3 minutes, OSU turned the ball over 5 times, and both teams combined to miss 5 free throws. Just basically utter, complete chaos comedy show down the stretch, which we kind of saw a lot in the Mike Boynton era. And usually they would find ways to lose those games, but at least Oklahoma State didn't do enough calamities to let that one slip away.
Yeah, we were texting. I told you, thank God they had a big enough lead to endure what has happened these last 3 minutes of this game. Parsifala, if ever a guy should have acted like an injury was really bothering him, that would have been a great moment, because, there was nobody in front of him and he got rejected by the rim. That was a tough scene on an otherwise great night for Parsifala. Let's see. From the floor, he was 8 of 13, and one of his misses was that dunk. But, yeah, Carson, Steve Lutz even mentioned after the game, like, he's never seen anything like that. Oklahoma State had games earlier this year. He mentioned the Northwestern game where they had teams pressing them late. They did a good job taking care of the ball. That was just complete and utter chaos at the end of that game, throwing the ball over guys' heads, out of bounds. The ball was in like the 8th row at one point, and UCF wasn't doing anything to convert on the other end. It was just it was a comedy of errors. I was texting another buddy. I told him Scott Van Pelt should do a segment on it on SportsCenter where he plays like the circus music behind it, and he's just got guys running back and forth, throwing the ball to each other, throwing it in the stands. It was I told you it was like watching a Little League team try to get a runner in a rundown. And if you've ever been to a Little League baseball game, that ball gets thrown all over the park. You never know where it's going to go. So it was crazy, but fortunately they had built up enough of a lead to get to the finish line.
Yeah, Steve Lutz said, quote, "I wanted to jump off into Boomer Lake. I've never seen something like that, guys, from both teams. I've never seen something like that." And he went on to say they need to be better at taking care of the basketball. And Steve Lutz has been a coach. I just looked it up. He was a full-time assistant dating back to 1995 at, I think it was Incarnate Word, where Eric Morris came from. Yes, at Incarnate Word. A little symmetry there. I bet they've had some discussions about Incarnate Word already. So he's been a coach for 30 years and hasn't seen something like that. That really said a lot of just, okay, let's – I thought there was one point, too, where Steve Lutz, he called timeout, and then the refs were discussing whether it was over and back across midcourt, and he was just, exasperated as to what was going on. I was like, that's – coaches, I always – sometimes I come away from college basketball games or NBA, which have you. I'm almost more impressed by when a coach takes a timeout when things are going just absolutely haywire and like the whole arena can like breathe than I am with like drawing up some special play on the whiteboard that gets an open layup. Like that to me is like a sixth sense. It's almost like play calling in football where you kind of have that feel like I gotta call timeout. I gotta get these guys in over here. This is going very, very wrong.
Yeah, and you see that from time to time, but it's never so glaring, and it's never just like over and over again. Like Lutz kept having to call timeouts because they could not get it together. It was really something. What else is really something? Our good friends at Brewster Consulting Group. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Processes that are manual and inefficient with no documentation, data reporting. It takes forever. It's not accurate. You hear all the hype about AI, but no clue what it actually means for your business. Projects always running over time, always running over budget. If so, talk with our good friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. They have delivered solutions that are built to last for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, Brewster was founded and is run by a proud Oklahoma State alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at www.brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube. I would imagine Brewster re-upped for season tickets next year. If you survived 2025, I can't imagine that anyone decided, nah, I think I'm good. I don't want to be there next year. That place is going to be so rocking, Carson, day one. I mean, I cannot wait for the first time that team runs out of the tunnel.
It really is. They need to put that on T-shirts, by the way. I survived 2025 or even throw in 2024 in there too. But no, I mean, just it's going to – like – the fact that they had, like I saw the average attendance, someone posted it, I retweeted it several weeks ago. Like the fact Oklahoma State averaged nearly 40,000 people in that building for by far the worst Power 4 team, 2 years running, mind you, not just one bad year, 2 straight years of being arguably the worst team in Power 4. That is insane. That is remarkable. That just shows you how far this football program has come from the Les Miles, Mike Gundy era. It's crazy. And I don't think we've even seen yet, to your point, what OSU can be. Because, you know, I talk a lot about this with OSU football is we don't really know yet because all the years under Mike Gundy, like the lack of top 10, 15, 25, 30 recruiting classes, everyone just chalked up to that's OSU. Or that's Stillwater, or that's this, or that's that. And so, I mean, like, we don't really even know yet what Oklahoma State football can be or will be because Gundy came along the second OSU got serious about football. And that's I've brought it up many times, Colby, but it's such an important point. Like, the notion that OSU can't do this, that, or the other, we don't know. It could be a Mike Gundy issue or it could be an Oklahoma State issue. We're going to find out, though, really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, early signs point to Oklahoma State having the support, the resources, the ability to support its program, sans Mike Gundy. There's certainly some money flying around. We talked about it over the weekend. If you're talking about the old coaching staff, the new coaching staff, buyouts, everything that's going on, the amount of money that's probably thrown around in NIL, like $50 million probably in the last few months has been shelled out for this Oklahoma State football program. That comes from somewhere. I think that this program is getting support, and they're able to bring in Drew Mestamaker, who was committed. We recorded over the weekend. He was the lone commit. Since then, Carson, we have rounded out the trio. We've got the triplets, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young in there as well. They are 2 of 15 North Texas transfers that are making their way to Stillwater. Carson, I gave it a quick Google because I wasn't sure. I wanted to know how many players Curt Cignetti took with him from James Madison to Indiana, because there is, I think, a vocal minority. I don't think it's a majority of the fan base, but there's a vocal minority that I've seen on the internet saying things along the lines of, well, if all we're bringing in is North Texas talent, then we're not going to be any better than North Texas. We're going to be a lower level team. We're going to get crushed in the Big 12. First of all, you're not bringing in 85 North Texas players. So far, it's 15. One of them's the long snapper. Shout out long snapper. But yeah, so far it's 15. And Carson, I have to imagine that this coaching staff is bringing in the absolute cream of the crop of the guys who were down there at North Texas. And we know just from some of the measurable things that Oklahoma State is bringing in some of the biggest producers from that North Texas team, also bringing in commits in the portal from Oklahoma, from Kansas State, from Texas Tech, from SMU, from Louisville. Really athletic, talented looking kid coming in from Louisville. Really high prospect offensive lineman, 6'6", 330 pounds, coming over from Oklahoma. He's just dealt with injuries in his career. If he's been healthy, he's been good. So, I think that this is a good mix of saying, okay, we had a great team at North Texas. Let's see how many of those guys we can get up here, bring the best ones to Stillwater, supplement with some guys from the Power Four who you can get in. There's more offers that are out. And yeah, I think they're doing a great job in the portal, mixing, bringing over what they know from North Texas and going out and getting some other guys from the Power Four level.
No, I totally agree. And I certainly would agree with the notion of, okay, you're getting, really good players from North Texas. Let's go get some Power Four dudes. And that's what they've done since then, right? And I agree with you. They're not taking the entire roster of North Texas, but they're key pieces. And like to your point too, Eric Morris and his staff that he's brought with him know, okay, who on this team could play in the NFL? Who are our best guys? That's who they've prioritized. That's who they've already landed. And I wanted to pull up the transfer portal tracker handy from Marshall Scott on Pistols Firing blog. Everyone should go check it out. Stay up to date with the latest roster moves at Oklahoma State. You touched on kind of the high notes. You and I had speculated on Caleb Hawkins joining Drew Mestemaker in Stillwater. He has signed with Oklahoma State. They get this James Madison running back, Ayu Adeyi from James Madison, who had also had previous experience with Eric Morris. And really, I mean, getting Wyatt Young and Miles Coleman, two just electric wide receivers, just big time. And Terrence Lewis. I mean, and then you go down the list, you see all the other North Texas guys that you've mentioned there on the offensive line, getting some O-line dudes in there. And I did want to touch on Jacob Sexton, kid from Deer Creek, coming from the University of Oklahoma. I put out a text to the Fantasy Dojo, my Edmond Fantasy Football League guys I went to high school with. They're all Sooners. I just take a beating in there constantly. They've left me alone lately, which is great, but I asked them for a kind of a dojo scouting report on Jacob Sexton, and Matt Marshall said, held together with duct tape, has played the last two seasons at injury report. Good player when healthy, though. So a kid that clearly has the talent, was a high-level recruit going to OU, and just, these are the kind of players you like to bet on, right, Colby? They have the pedigree. Just, football's a violent sport, particularly on the offensive line. Hasn't been able to stay healthy, but that's not a reason that he's going to stay unhealthy the rest of his career either.
Yeah, injuries are unpredictable. They're oftentimes random in this sport. I think the only exception would be like a Tua Tagovailoa, something like that, with head injuries, where somebody's more prone to those than others. But other than that, I think injuries are mostly random. It's like this buddy of mine who told me under no circumstances should I draft Christian McCaffrey to my fantasy football team this year. Well, because he was injured last year. He gets hurt too much. Like, yeah, I don't care. He's great, so I'm going to pick him. If he gets hurt, injuries are random. Guys get hurt. That's part of it. This is a really good get. And I would imagine he's probably a guy that comes over and starts for Oklahoma State. Pardon me. I think Desmond Magaya is probably going to be a starter coming over from North Texas. So, yeah, I think that they're doing some things on the offensive line. And I don't know, Carson, I don't think that this is going to be an offensive line that's going to maul people. But I just have to believe deep down in my core that some of the problems Oklahoma State was facing on the offensive line was because they weren't coaching in a way, they weren't calling plays in a way, they weren't running an offense that was putting their offensive line in a position to succeed. It was a lot of inside zone. They weren't moving people, but man, they weren't making defenses defend the entire field. I mean, I've talked till I blue in the face over the last few years about playing offense in a phone booth. That is the absolute opposite of what Eric Morris and Drew Mestemaker were doing this past season at North Texas. So I think if you can get some talented kids on that line and put them in this offense where Mestemaker has good pocket presence, he doesn't hold on to the ball too long, he can move around certainly enough that you have to respect that in terms of him moving the pocket and getting outside. I have to think that this is going to be – I'm saying this simply because of Eric Morris and Drew Mestemaker. I think we're going to look back at this season in 2026, and we're going to be like, oh, a good offense can solve a lot of offensive line problems too. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm definitely just fully bleeding orange right now. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, so I maybe sound too optimistic. We'll see how many games I pick this team to win in August. But it's hard not to, Carson. Like, in modern college football, when you could just go out and get the coach and all the best players from somewhere else and bring them in, like, I mean, look at all these places that are open in the NFL. Like the New York Giants have a head coaching vacancy. John Harbaugh just got fired. They can hire John Harbaugh. Imagine if they could also bring Lamar. We would feel different about the Giants going into next season. We should feel different about Oklahoma State going into next season.
It's a great comparison. Did the people that were bringing up Curt Cignetti, did they forget that he won 11 games his first time out, his first season?
Oh, no, I didn't see anybody actually bringing up Cignetti. I just saw people saying, well, I guess we're bringing over an American Conference roster because we want to compete in the American Conference. Also, can I just point out, what if we did bring the whole roster over? Do you know what the score would have been if Oklahoma State would have played North Texas last year, Carson? Neutral site? About 56-17. They would have beat us like a drum is what would have happened if we would have played North Texas.
Yeah, I'll take North Texas' roster.
Yeah, like these guys are good. What are we talking about? Are you telling me that Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, and Wyatt Young, you don't want that trio? The Desmond Magaya kid on the line? The leading tackler, sack getter? Like the absolute best of the best players on a really good team. The best season in North Texas school history. But yeah, they're from North Texas, so we need to go out and only get guys that we know nothing about just because they had a different sticker on their helmet. No, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. North Texas was a much better team than Oklahoma State last year. Much better. And we don't need to put our noses up in the air and act like we're too good to take in 15 North Texas transfers. It's not 85. It's not 100. It's 15. Calm down, everybody. This is a good thing.
Totally agree. And, like, was Eric Morris not universally approved as the coach? Like, why don't you let the guy calling the shots call the shots? Like, you think you know better than Eric Morris? Come on. I didn't want to gloss over also on the defensive side from North Texas. Linebacker Ethan Weslowski was North Texas' leading tackler last year. He finished the season with the third best PFF grade among qualified linebackers. He has 21 and a half career tackles for loss and 7 sacks. So really good player on the defensive side, too. So much attention's been on the offensive side from the North Texas transfers, but a really good get there at linebacker. And Colby, this Marion Horn, the cornerback from Texas Tech. We got one from Tech, baby. We're stealing from the rich. I feel like Robin Hood taking this corner out of Texas Tech. So really good additions here, really. I've been really impressed with what they've been able to do so far on the defensive side because it has been so offensive-focused early.
Yeah, and getting Horn back in the fold, that's an in-state kid. He's a Broken Arrow kid, goes down there to Lubbock, and he played 800 snaps in 2024. He played 120 snaps in 2025. So after some roster turnover, they had some different guys out there. And look, I don't think that there's any shame in not being one of the absolute stars on that Texas Tech defense. I studied that Texas Tech defense pretty good whenever I was filling out an AP voting ballot for first and second team All Big 12. And that was a historically good Big 12 defense. I mean, I think what I would compare Horn to is like there were some guys on that Oklahoma State defense in 2021, guys who didn't get to play a lot of snaps, guys who didn't get to be the star, guys who were kind of third down guys, played in some nickel packages, stuff like that, who were good players. But because that defense was so loaded, they didn't get to be on the field all the time and do a lot of things. And that's where Horn's at. And hopefully after a few years, hopefully he will be a really strong player for Oklahoma State. So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for Horn. And, yeah, you got to build it on both sides. So, like we said, you brought in the trio. Now go get everybody else, and it seems like Oklahoma State's headed that direction.
You could be headed in the right direction with Wolf Corporation. Turn to them, Oklahoma's trusted commercial real estate listing brokerage since 2010. Their experienced team specializes in showcasing your retail, office, or industrial space to the right buyers and tenants across the state. They're based right here in Oklahoma and deliver results with local expertise. Visit them at wolfcorporation.com. That's WULF corporation.com, or call 405-308-3480 today. Go Pokes. I do want to go back to the portal tracker again because we do have some Oklahoma State guys in the transfer portal as well. And we have some news with Haas Haney commits to Colorado State. Were you surprised by that? Where he landed at there?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't know. The sample size is so small. It's 3 drives. Like, he seemed like a talented kid. The throw that he made rolling to his left to Terrell Davis up the sideline, like, that was a great throw. Getting the corner, that's great. But it's 3 drives against an FCS opponent. I don't know, man. Go Rams. Good for him. I hope he has a lot of success there. That's obviously not a competitor for Oklahoma State. So I hope we look up and Colorado State's 10-2 at the end of the season, and he threw for 3,500 yards and ran for another 1,000. I hope he goes and crushes it.
I haven't followed TCU. I'm not sure what they're going to do because I saw Josh Hoover, their quarterback's going to Indiana. I kind of thought he might go back to TCU, but I think you're starting to see now, Colby, in this era, there's a few top guys commanding top dollar, but there's only so many spots. I mean, Sam Levitt's trying to find a spot right now, leaving Arizona State. There's a situation with the Washington guy trying to back out of his contract to go to LSU. Sam Levitt just took a visit to LSU. So maybe it's a case with Haas Haney that there just weren't that many spots available where you can go in right away and be the guy, which at this stage in his career, that's what he wants. So that's mostly what I took from it. Rodney Fields going to Kansas State, that hurts. I don't like seeing guys go to Kansas State because we always know those are going to be wars anytime you see the Wildcats. But certainly wish him well. But good spot for him, and clearly didn't want to stick around Stillwater with Caleb Hawkins coming to town.
Yeah, I get it from Rodney Field's standpoint. I would have liked to have had him in that room for more depth in that room, but you bring in 2 guys from the portal. One of them you're pretty sure is probably going to be the starter in Caleb Hawkins. He's a really good player, and I think the writing was on the wall for Rodney Fields, and he's going somewhere where he feels like he can be the guy. Really curious to see how that all works under Colin Klein, and so much turnover in the Big 12. Colin Klein obviously doesn't have the ability to just bring over kind of a plug-and-play roster with top guys like what Coach Morris brought over. So I'll be very curious to see how quick of a start the Colin Klein era gets off to. But, yeah, it's a bummer to lose Fields. It's a bummer to lose Freeman. But when you're bringing in Mestamaker, Hawkins, and Young, it certainly softens that blow a lot. So these are guys that I'll root for again. I hold no ill will toward any of these Oklahoma State players for leaving and going elsewhere, chasing the best opportunity for themselves. They were here for some dark years, and they made the best that they could out of what was clearly a bad situation these last couple years in Stillwater. So I hope they find success. I just hope none of that success is against Oklahoma State.
Same. And I got to say, I was rather surprised by Gavin Freeman entering the portal. I mean, not that I had any intel on it or anything. I just thought, wow, what a perfect coach to come to Stillwater for a Gavin Freeman. Now, I certainly understand all the receivers they brought in from North Texas. Only so many, catches to go around. But, man, he's a different type of player. Wyatt Young while he can play in the slot too, is certainly a much greater deep threat. Same with the other receivers they brought in. So I'm surprised by that, but who knows? Maybe he's able to command money in the open market. But and two, if I put myself in Eric Morris's shoes, I'm not gonna stump a bunch of money for a receiver that I inherited. If I were Eric Morris, I'd be like, wait, you don't want to play in my offense? Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, I think there's probably an element of that. I also think there's just when you bring in a new coach like this, and he's bringing in some of his guys, and at that position, it was 3 or 4 receivers that are coming in from North Texas. I think it's natural for Gavin Freeman to think, okay, I can be here, and I can try to overcome what is already going to be a relationship built there. There's trust built there. Like, these are his guys he's bringing in to play, obviously. He's not bringing them in to watch. He's bringing them in to play. I can try to overcome that and make myself the guy on this team or one of the guys on this team, or I can find a staff out there somewhere who falls in love with me. I can go there and maybe I'll get a better chance to play. It's hard to say, Carson. I mean, I'm reading somewhere like 30% of these guys in the portal aren't going to find homes. Like some of these guys could wind up back. You get in the portal and you could come back. So, like there are so many players in the portal and there are not enough open spots for all these guys. So a few of these names, these Oklahoma State names that are in the portal, you might see them make their way back to Stillwater. I don't know that Gavin Freeman is one of those because I think he's put enough on tape that somebody's going to want him. But there are some guys who have played little or sparingly at Oklahoma State who might go out in the portal and realize, Stillwater was a pretty good spot. I think I might head back that direction. So that's one thing. Recommitments is something to keep an eye on over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, true. They could certainly come back, and we'll have to see how the roster ultimately ends up shaking out. But good stuff, Colby. I think that's all I had for this week, unless you got something else.
I have a question. I want to know. I don't care who you think's going to win because predicting these games, who knows? They're going to be close. I want to know who you want to win the college football playoff semifinal games. Did the teams that you wanted to win in the quarters win? And, well, we talked about that last show. Just tell me, who do you want to win these CFP semi games?
I mean, I would like to see. I hate Miami. I mean, I grew up a Florida State fan. I cannot stand Michael. I cannot stand Michael Irvin being the clown that he is over on the sideline. Just all the look at me energy in the world bottled up in one human in Michael Irvin. So I've always hated Miami. Don't really like the fact what they've done they've done nothing for virtually 20 years, 25 years until NIL came along. Hate that, but I would like to see the ACC dethrone the SEC, and I would like to see Indiana win it. I mean, look, they've got a lot of money, and they're in the Big Ten. I don't like the Big Ten. I think I'm well documented on that. But I do think it signals a change in where this sport has gone. And I do think that change helps Oklahoma State greatly. Because we're now out of the era where Alabama's third team could compete in the Big 12 and win a Big 12 championship. They used to have a stockpile of 5 stars just waiting their turn to play. And that just doesn't exist anymore. And you look at Indiana, I think they're in addition to just that element, it shows you if you're a really good football coach who can identify talent and has the funds to go acquire that talent, you can go beat Alabama's of the world, the Ohio States of the world, the Oregon on their field. So, yeah, I think that's something that I would like to see is like really signal some change here and let it not be a blue blood. I just don't want it to be a blue blood. I would consider Oregon a new age blue blood. Ole Miss, I wouldn't call them that, but they are in the juggernaut conference, like Big Ten or the SEC, them being in the SEC. So I want the blue bloods of the world and the powers that be to be shaking their boots a little. Like, we don't have this built-in advantage anymore. So that's what I want to see. I like Signetti. I like what he's about. I think Dan Lanning's a bit on the clown scale too. He's a really good coach. I have a lot of respect for his coaching ability. He's just got a little bit of that feistiness in him that is a little prickly.
So clarification, you hate Miami, but you want the ACC to win. Who are you rooting for in that game? I never.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I want Indiana to win. I said that.
You want Indiana to win it all, but who do you want to win the Miami Ole Miss game specifically?
I mean, I guess Miami. Yeah. Okay. That's what I started with, and you're right. I didn't follow up on that, but yeah, I want the SEC to be left out. And I want Miami to lose and painful. I want Michael Irvin to be rolling around on the ground after the game, crying. And again, I just think the model's right there for OSU with Signetti. He's already done this exact thing that Morris is doing. That's not to say he's going to win 11 games his first year or be in the semifinal a couple years down the road. But it's really encouraging from an Oklahoma State standpoint if Indiana goes and pulls this off.
Yeah, so Ole Miss is a distant fourth on my list in terms of who I want to win the national championship. I think it would be actually terrible for college football if Ole Miss won the national championship because SEC heads, these talking heads, and all these Southeast people would take to TV, they'd take to radio, they'd take to the internet, and they'd talk about how the fifth or sixth best team from our conference for the last decade just won the national championship, and they didn't have a coach for the last 6 weeks. Look how much better we are than everybody else. Ole Miss, please, I'm begging you, kick rocks, lose this game to Miami. I think it's going to be a great game, but I just, for the SEC factor, I badly want Miami to win that game and knock Ole Miss out. And I'm with you. I want Indiana to win the whole thing. All the points you made about how it symbolizes the new era of college football. I think it's interesting that this is a rematch between Indiana and Oregon, so they've got to beat them again. Oregon obviously will make some adjustments there. They beat them in Eugene, so you'd think they could beat them on a neutral site, but it's not always that simple. You've got to come to play on the day, and Oregon is loaded with talent. They looked great against Texas Tech. I mean, they looked great in that game. So I think these will both be really good games, but if I had to choose what I wanted to happen, I want Indiana to beat Miami in the finals, and I agree Michael Irvin is a clown. Like, what is going on there? Like, is that I get it. Michael Irvin's always been a little out there, and this is allegedly drug-free Michael Irvin. What is going on over there with the belt? I mean, calm down. Just take a breath, dude. It's all right. Take a breath.
Calm down. You haven't been in college for 35 years, okay? Like, it's okay. Like, you'll be fine regardless. To your point about the SEC, I completely agree. There was a great tweet that I retweeted from Joe Wheat. He said, the SEC created such a fun system. 8-game conference schedule, no 10 Power 5 requirement. If you lose early, it doesn't count. But if you lose bowl games, it doesn't count either. So the only games we are allowed to evaluate you on are games against the SEC, and which is a gauntlet because, trust me, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Missouri had a combined 3 wins over teams with winning records. 2 of those wins were Vanderbilt over Missouri and Tennessee. And all 3 of them spent almost the entire season ranked. That is the entire issue. Like, sure, SEC, you guys have won national championships. Your top-tier teams are great. But Missouri and Vanderbilt and Tennessee just getting this blanket benefit of the doubt without beating anybody with a pulse, it's a joke. It's a complete joke. So you've convinced me. I do not want Ole Miss to keep winning.
All right, I'm glad we've been able to put your Miami hatred aside for the good of college football, for the good of the planet, really, of the human race. We need to get this SEC propaganda machine knocked down a peg because, they're talking about expansion and automatic bids and all this stuff. And look, they've got the money. They're going to control what happens, but I don't have to like it. And I have a microphone, so I can complain about it from time to time.
ESPN's going to be so sad if there's no SEC team in the title game.
Oh, yeah. They won't be able to call it SEC. SEC on ABC, SEC on ABC. It's like, oh, my God, this SEC propaganda machine, it's driving me nuts. OU and Alabama, neither one deserve to be in the playoff. Alabama beats OU on their home field, and then they go get beat like a drum by Indiana. OU and Alabama were both they got invited to the SEC. They got invited to the SEC Invitational because of those 3 letters. I
totally agree. Yeah. So, all right, Colby, appreciate it. We'll get back with you next week.
Absolutely, great stuff. Maybe Oklahoma State can pull off a big one in Ames this Saturday. If so, is that emergency pod worthy, Carson?
It might be. I'll be on alert.
Be. Yep.
Listeners, be on high alert as well. I'll have the bat signal ready.
All right. Appreciate everyone listening. As always, go Pokes.